Welcome everybody, welcome to the stream. My name is Jose, this is Kendo Tips, and today we're gonna talk about Kendo. The plan for today is going to be talking about seme, and as abstract as that can be, I'll try to do my best to kind of keep us all on the same page and try to see how we can share our knowledge about it and try to grow together. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this stream. Thank you very much for passing by. I want to remind you, if you enjoy the channel, if you like the streams, just take a second, hit the like button. It doesn't really cost anything, right? Just 2 seconds of your time and making sure that this stream gets pushed out to more people out there. Okay, let me just make sure that everything is running smoothly. Okay, everything should be good. Okay, I picked up 2 videos. Actually, one of the videos that I'm using for today, it's kind of, I got the idea from the previous stream. I shared that video in the stream itself, but today I guess we're gonna watch it together. So if you have any questions, if there's anything I can, discuss about it, feel free to drop it in the comments. And what I'll do is I'll put the video in the chat. So if you guys want to watch it on your own later on, feel free to do so. Okay, right here. Okay, and this video specifically explains seme, and it kind of touches upon some different types of seme, because even though we have 4 techniques, right? We have 4 targets, I should say: men, kote, do, and tsuki. We have many different ways of getting there. So I think this is the main focus I'm going to have when talking about seme today. And what I'm going to do is that I have the official, let me just make sure that my camera is so good. Okay, the official Kendo guide for Kendo instruction. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the description of seme that's used here in order to kind of keep us in the same page, especially with the lingo, right? So what I'll do is I'll read it up very quick. And by the way, if you don't have this book, this is a great book. I think this is one of my top 3 books about Kendo. Okay, so seme or semeru: to take the initiative, to close the distance with the opponent with full spirit. This puts the opponent off balance mentally and physically and prevents him or her from moving freely. So it gives a couple of examples, but this enables one to maintain a constant advantage over the opponent. In Kendo, it is important to intentionally attack and strike, not to strike by chance. So this is very important. The back and forth action of offense and defense involved in seme and semi kaesu, so like return seme, or countering, not only improves the skill of both players, but also develops their minds and bodies. All of this leads to the mutual self-creation of both people and to the building of human character, which, by the way, it's also part of the purpose of Kendo, stated at the beginning of this book. But a couple of points that I kind of want to make sure that I kind of want to like target specifically is the fact that seme, it's to create openings, right? And the one thing that kind of sticks out to me is that, give me 1 second, let me just find this. In Kendo, it's important to intentionally attack and strike, not to just strike by chance, but at the same time, you also don't want to stay behind, right? And that's kind of like the discussion I kind of want to have about today, which is the thing that I'm observing a lot on myself and the people that I'm practicing around at the dojo. So let me just catch up with Krishnavani. I'm hoping that I'm saying your name right. So thank you for passing by. And you're saying your sensei keeps telling you it looks like you're pulling left foot after the fumikomi. Any tips to improve it? Pulling the left foot. You're pulling the left foot. What do you mean pulling the left foot? Are you leaving it behind and then it's kind of coming up? My idea, the image that I get from pulling the left foot is that you bring it forward. So yeah, can you clarify a little bit on that? Just to make sure that I got the right image. That will help a lot. Okay, so let's go let's get into the video. This is again an instructional video from Kobayashi Sensei, and he talks about how he approaches semen. So I kind of wanted to watch it with you. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay. Okay. Wait. I'm gonna call you Krish. You can't attack quickly with the second Fumikomi immediately. So meaning that, like, if you're gonna do kote men, for example, there's a lag between the kote and the men, right? I'm guessing this is what you mean. I think actually practicing kote men helps a lot for you to stop dragging your back leg because it forces you to bring it quick. So the one tip that a friend of mine gave me a long time ago is that you want to be conscious of that step. So every time you take one step, let me just say this. So when you take, let me go back to, when you take one step, you always gotta be conscious that this foot needs to come forward because you gotta think that you're gonna take another step. So every time that we take one step in kendo, most of the time we move both feet, right? So you got to move, but think that you're gonna do a third one. This is normally what I like to do when I practice my footwork at home, right? Like I'm trying to take one step in my practice, and then I'm imagining that I'm going to take another one. So my back foot is already engaged to keep moving. But I think practicing kote men consistently and always kind of keep in mind that you want to go forward after your technique will help a lot. The other thing, and this again, I will have to see a video of you, but the other thing that it's very sensitive is that maybe you are lunging yourself too long, too far, and also trying to reach over with your shinai, and this puts you in a very awkward position to actually use your muscles to bring forward. So again, I haven't seen what's happening, but in the image that I have in my head, what I will try to do is I will try to make sure that you hit, and immediately when you hit, you're standing straight. You're not leaning forward, right? So maybe even trying to do it with like smaller steps and small fumikomi, but when you're practicing with your partner at the dojo, try to come in and hit straight, so that way your lower body is with you at the moment of strike. And if you could, maybe you can do nidan wasa, so 2 techniques, 3 techniques, 4 techniques, 5 techniques, and so on, right? Depending how big your dojo is. So, important part. Okay, again, let me recap a little bit. We're gonna talk about seme today, and specifically the definition that I'm gonna be using is the definition from the Kendo Guide for Instruction, and we're going to be looking at Kobayashi Sensei's instruction on seme. Krish, if you have any other questions, let me know. As a matter of fact, guys, if you haven't, make sure that you pass by the Discord channel and you can become a member there. And this way, you know, if you have any questions, you can reach me there. But at the same time, it's a good way, like, to contact with other people that also like Kendo. So, yeah, I just dropped the link on the chat. Okay. Let's watch this video a little bit. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Okay. So I like the fact that he's listing out all the different ways to create pressure, to approach your opponent. Again, I'm going by the definition of the Kendo Guide, but the main thing is that there are many ways to approach your opponent, and he's going to explain the one that he favors, but he also explains that you have to adapt to different situations. So maybe if you have different ways, feel free to share in the chat. That way we can talk about it and we can discuss it. So he's talking about that he prefers Isun no Seme, and okay, I'm just gonna let him explain it.
質の攻めっていうのは3センチですからほんのわずかですね。荒くこうグーッと入ると相手が反応してこう。
So this for me, it's a very I like how he brings it up from the beginning. A lot of the times we're so used to practicing long steps, attacking from a very long distance. This is good for your physical training, but you have to understand that if you approach your opponent from very far, it's easier for your opponent to read your intention and then act accordingly. So maybe just a little adjustment can throw you off as you're moving towards your opponent, and then now you're open for your opponent to attack. Discipline, thank you for passing by. Morning. Wow, one of your favorite videos. Yeah, this is a very good video. This is a very nice video. Where is he at? I haven't met him, but he does look like a very approachable guy.
してしまいますので、ほんの構えてください。ほんのわずか。攻めっていうのは攻めの情動は相手の右拳を攻めるというのが情動です。これ
This is another thing that I enjoy this explanation because maybe this is something that we normally are not mindful of. And a lot of times, let me just get my little shinais. A lot of times when people are trying to take the center, they kind of push sideways, right? But instead of pushing sideways, you want to kind of keep that pressure forward because of course, if you push too much and you lift, then you're wide open, right? But he's mentioning that he's kind of putting the pressure toward the right kote of the opponent, right? So the forward hand of the opponent, keeping that intention there. So he's not really kind of pushing out, but at the same time, he's also kind of cutting into the sword. So I don't know if you can, let me see my screen real quick. Okay, so maybe I'm gonna do it like here. So a lot of times people, let me try to line up the shinais. Okay, like this. A lot of times people, when they try to make an opening, they push to the side. But if the opponent lets go, then now they're wide open, right? So, but instead, if you kind of keep that intention forward slightly at an angle, you can get a little bit of the same effect where if you lift your shinai, maybe your opponent, because of pressure, will open, but at the same time, it's safer for you. You're not consciously or intentionally pushing sideways. So this is the thing very important to kind of keep in mind. Guys, I'm sorry, because I think this light is kind of going down. Let me see what's happening. Give me 1 second. Oh. Okay, let me see if I can adjust this real quick. Okay. Maybe that's a little bit better. Sorry, like I'm still figuring out the setup for the stream, so hopefully it's a little bit better. Discipline, you're saying you used to practice with him in Higashi, Kanagawa at Hajin Sensei's dojo. Oh, cool. Nice. I'll look it up. Okay, let's keep going.
入れながらですね。こう入れてですね、相手の右腰を攻めていく。それとともにですね、足をですね、やっぱり質の攻めですから、ほんのわずか。
So he's demonstrating how coming in with a little bit shorter steps, a little bit more control, not so sudden, can give a little bit of a better approach against the opponent, right? Like you have a little bit of a better, a less readable approach. Guys, I'm sorry, I think this light still, let me see if I have another light. Let's see if this light is working. Let me see if I can get this to work here. Okay, 1 second, guys. Yeah, for some reason this is much brighter. Okay, hopefully this now will be okay, not too bright. Let me see. Okay, this is a little bit better. Sorry guys, you know, sometimes we get a little bit of technical difficulties here in the stream, but we make it work. We make it happen. Okay.
これを私は使っております。いつも、右拳を攻めておりませんけど、その状況に応じてですね、ガッガッ、あとそのままと言っていく、この攻め方が私はなかなかいいのではないかなという感じで、使っております。
I agree a lot with this explanation. I agree a lot with him saying that this seme works very well. Uh, the main reason is because it's easy to. I'm not gonna say easy, but I think it's the one that it's easier for you to start understanding even from early on, right? Because the idea here is to approach the opponent, always have that forward intention towards the opponent rather than just staying there waiting for the opponent, or the other way, take long steps and just come in without really any preparation against your opponent, right? So these are things that you want to keep in mind, and you want to try to experiment, because the only way that you're gonna actually get this, or your body is going to memorize this, is by do it. And as it goes on, I'm gonna add on some of the things that I've been experiencing lately, okay?
はい、いきます。こういう入り方ですね。それとですね、もう一つ、戸板の攻め、これはあまり普通の人はこの攻め方は何のことかなという感じの方がおられると思いますけども、これは市川角次先生のご長男の市川秀樹先生が、よく父親であるお父さんの角次先生に言われた。
Also, I really enjoy the fact that, you know, he's referring to this stuff as theory, right? And actually, it's a conversation that I have had with several friends, several senses, several people, that, you know, Kendo is not like, okay, you're going to lift weights, right? It's only one way of doing it. There are many little aspects that work differently. They may even work differently because of the different body types, right? And a lot of these things are very personal, like kamae. So, for example, the way that it's gonna work for me for kamae may not work for you in order for you to have an effective kamae. So, there are basic concepts from which these concepts you build your kendo. And I think this is very important to kind of keep in mind, because a lot of times, you know, when we get feedback, when we get instructions, sensei are looking at what you're lacking, right? But a lot of the times, maybe they don't have the right words to express it, because they do it one way that may not be comfortable for you. But that being said, you need to go through that experimenting process in order to get there. Let's just say that.
この攻めはですね、川が流れてくる、市川角次先生は熊本ですので、あそこから流れてくる白川というのは大きい川があるんですけども、そこに向こうから流れてぐーっと川が流れてくるところに戸板を立てる。その戸板でその川の水を下から押し上げていくということのようです。そうすることによってどう違うのかと言いますと、ただ剣線の攻めだと、はい、剣線
So, I actually enjoy this analogy a lot, and I think the one that you probably, if you watch the streams and my videos often, I normally make the reference of pushing one of those subway bars, right, that you're trying to go through, like an entrance, like a mission gateway, whatever, that you have to push with your belly. And I think this analogy actually works pretty well, because if you imagine that you're pushing a door, something wide, upstream on a river, you know you have to ground yourself and be able to push from your lower body, because if you kind of push from the top, the water will come underneath and just tip you over. So I think this is a very good analogy, and if you think about it, like if you're, you know, the current, just even by the current itself, you need to ground yourself and be able to just walk forward. I think this is kind of the feel that I'm getting right now. As a matter of fact, this week in practice, one of the senseis told me that you have to imagine that your mune, it's flat, like your do is flat, and you're pushing the opponent with your mune. You're coming in, you're putting the pressure with your mune. So for some reason, this analogy this week actually helped me a lot, and I'm kind of transferring it into what Kobayashi Sensei is talking about here.
ほんのわずか左側、ほんのわずか右側にやると、この延長はこちらに外れてしまいますので怖くない。こちら側の自分の体側から外れます。ところがこう構え、僕がいくよ。全体
I don't know if you caught that point, the whole thing about how when you're approaching a lot of times, let me make sure that I can see the camera real quick. When you're approaching your opponent, a lot of times the sword is kind of off in an angle, so the opponent doesn't really quite get any pressure coming their way, right? So they feel safe. So a lot of the times not a lot of times, this is another way where you can start thinking about using your sword to create pressure, right? Not only your body. So you gotta kind of learn to work with both to be able to get that reaction from your opponent. Hope that makes sense, guys. And if you have any questions, let me know.
的にこうわーと行くと相手は横に行ってもちょっと横行ってそうダメです今度はこっち来てこっちにそうぐーって言っても相手はその攻めに負けてしまうこの教えなんですこれは市川秀樹先生から話を聞いております攻めの定石としましては剣道は上を攻めてぐっと下を打つ下を攻めて上を打つ裏を攻めて表を打つ表を攻めて裏を打つこれが
So actually this is a conversation that I think I kind of understood with my broken Japanese today at the dojo, but it's you pressure from one place to create an opening because the opponent might block, and then you take advantage of the opening that got created because of that. So for example, he's talking about, okay, you pressure from Omote, but then you attack in Ura. And this doesn't mean that you're going to switch from one side to then go to the next. You can also do it from the same side, right? Like you don't have to move your shinai to kind of make your opponent think that you're going to attack on this side, because then if you're coming on this side, maybe the opponent is already kind of paying attention in a different way. So again, it's all about experimenting. What works? Can you make your opponent feel that you're going somewhere? So that way they're gonna cover, they're gonna react, they're gonna have to do something against that. So then you can take advantage of that. This is the main thing, I think, like at the most basic level that you want to try to understand when you're trying to experiment with seme, I guess. Again, I think seme, it's a advanced concept, and I think hopefully this week or the next week I'm gonna make a video talking a little bit about kind of like the early ranks, the lower ranks, how to kind of build up your the physical aspects that can transfer into seme. So yeah, please, like, maybe you want to think about this stuff, but if you don't get them, you know, you can ask the questions and I'll try my best to share an answer. This is another thing that I actually want to talk about a little bit of, the spiritual part, right? The spiritual requisites that translate this, and I think it also has to do with translation, right? But I'm gonna mention this because I had somebody already kind of like talk to me about this, that they didn't feel comfortable when he talked about spirituality when it came to Kendo. So if you want to substitute spirituality with self-awareness and overall awareness, is, you know, you can relate those two. I don't think that, you know, he's approaching this in any religious manner. I just kind of wanted to point that out because it's actually something that came up today for me, actually. Discipline. By putting pressure on your left side, puts pressure on the shinogi, it helps break the opponent's center. by putting pressure on your left side, on your own left side, so like, you know, you're pressing, going to your left, I guess that's what you mean. It puts pressure on the shinogi. It helps break the opponent's center. It does, but it depends on the occasion. This is not a, again, this is a lot of experimenting. I'm going to say that the reason why I'm making a pause about this is because you don't want to come in with the idea this equals this all the time, right? You gotta kind of gather information from your opponent as you move along, as you keep going, right? So keep those things in mind always. But thank you for that comment. That's actually very useful.
説明をする前にですね、気持ちの面ではですね、攻めっていうのは自分の気力を充実させてですね、行くぞ、行くぞ、打つぞという感じで、相手に対して、剣戦の威力、その自分の風格を。
So this is a very, very good point that maybe it's not so tangible, right? It's a little bit of it can be a little bit abstract. So how you show your character, he actually mentioned a little bit how you show the power of your kensen, right? And he's talking about concentrate your mental spirit and your mental spiritual power towards your opponent. And again, it has to do with the attention you have for your opponent and how much of a threat the opponent is going to see you. So if you come in and the opponent doesn't feel anything, then kind of you have little power, right? So you want to try to learn the ways where it's going to make the opponent feel something. So whether it is that you got the other person to go like this for one moment, okay, what did you do to make this happen? Then try to work that into how can you use this in the next time to make an opening and then take advantage of that opportunity, right? So keep those things in mind. A lot of information in one video, right?
という感じで、相手に対して、剣戦の威力、その自分の風格、それをミックスさせながらぐーっと相手に攻め入っていくということです。じゃあこう構えていてただこう言うんじゃなくて本当にですね行くぞ、本当に入っていく、これが大切だと思いますので、練習してみていただきたいと思います。
Yes, this is something that we need to break down and practice. So he's kind of talking about what I just mentioned, right? Where if your opponent doesn't feel anything, then you're not really doing it. So the reason why I think he's saying it and the reason why I say it as well is because a lot of times we think that we're doing it, but we might not be doing it. So always try to be aware of it. That's the part with the self-awareness. You want to make sure that you understand when it works, when it doesn't work, what are you doing successfully, what do you need to improve on, and so on. Seme is not just body movement, but it's much more. So you gotta try to understand how to use not only that step. Remember, he mentioned that he's using the Isun no Seme, right? Approaching in small intervals. But he's doing much more than just walking towards the opponent, right? In Seme, it is useful to keep the Kensen in the center line of the opponent and continually push forward.
この時にですね、私はただ剣線っていうのは正中線を外さないというとどうしても硬くなるような感じがします。
If you try to always keep the shinai in the center, right, and this is your only focus, it becomes problematic for a couple of reasons. First, because it's easier for your opponent to. Okay, first, because you get stiff, as he just mentioned. But then on top of that, you become overwhelmed with a lot of the information that you might get from your opponent coming in. So, what I'm saying is that your opponent might not have to do too much in order to get you to either freeze or overreact because you're so concentrated on trying to keep the shinai center that you kind of disregard a lot of the things that are happening, and you have to try to adapt and trying to become a little bit fluid when it comes to how do you approach your opponent, not only your feet but also your sword, so that way you're safe but also your opponent feels a threat.
で私の場合は中積みっていうかその相手の中積み正中線っていうのは幅を持たせていましてまっすぐに
So he's mentioning that he feels that the center for him is a little bit wider. I think this is a good point. Normally when people say, oh, you gotta keep the center, they think about like, a very thin line in the middle of the body. But normally the way I was taught is to think about it as a fist wide, right? But he's actually making it a little bit wider, maybe the size of the head. And again, this is the way he approaches it, and I think it works very well for him. So maybe you want to kind of consult with your sensei, see if you can try different ways and try to understand this. But again, remember, you cannot copy everything that you're being told on videos because you might not be getting the full picture, okay? So please be careful. I want you to create bad habits because of videos.
とっては正中線だ中積みだっていう感じでこういくと気がすごく楽になるんですね。でそういうことで私は
And this is another point and something I wanted to talk about after watching this video, but feeling that the movement is natural. Just in case I forget, I'll mention it right now. At the dojos where I'm practicing, where I'm going, there's a lot of 6-7 dans and sometimes hachi dans in the practice. And the one thing I notice is that when they move, it looks like they're just walking, right? Like it looks like any regular step. And for me, I feel that I'm in kamae and I'm like pushing. I'm like so tense. My legs are, exerting so much power that you want to make sure that you kind of adapt and understand how to make these feelings a little bit more natural for your body and also for the ways of being ready for anything that could happen, right? So I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Discipline, you're saying for your opponent to fear your seme, you have to attack their blind spot. Sometimes it's between the opponent's eye or come from under and up the middle. Sometimes it's between the opponent's eye or come from under and up the middle. I don't know. Like a lot of the times, if you're focusing, like if you're the person receiving this, a lot of the times if you're focusing too much on the shinai, you kind of miss what's happening in front. So in my experience, experienced players, they're not paying so much attention to what's happening down in the shinai, but they're actually paying more attention to you and when you're coming in and when you're actually becoming a threat. So I don't quite agree with that because I think you're gonna be thinking about so many things that an experienced player can overcome easily. So I think it's more about, for me at least, it's more about approaching your opponent, being ready and anticipate their movements rather than like I don't know where blind spot might be for somebody in front of them because I get full view, so I don't know. Like it's a little bit of an abstract concept for me, and I'm not paying attention to the tip of shinai. For example, I'm paying attention to when are you coming my way and what can I do so you don't make it this way but I make it there. I don't know, my point of view. Shen, welcome to the chat. Thank you very much for passing by.
それと
Talking about seven today, by the way.
攻めるときには拳を攻めるっていうのがこれは、たくさんの先生方また現役の人たちはこうやってますけども、やっぱり拳を攻めていく、拳を攻める、これが大切なんですけども、これは攻めるというのは打つためではなくて、相手の怒る頭を
So this is a little bit of what I'm talking about, anticipation. When I'm pressuring, I'm not just trying to get a reaction, right? I'm also trying to anticipate my opponent. So when I'm trying, and this is something I'll talk about it after the end of this video, but this is something that I'm trying to do, is that to make sure that not only I put pressure, but I'm also ready before they're ready, right? Like I'm trying to make sure that my legs and my body it's ready to go as the opponent is getting ready to attack or to react.
狙うため
That's my goal, at least.
打つ範疇にあるんですけども、ただ打つためではない。こうやってる攻めてるうちに怒り頭を来たとかドンというところです。でちょっとじゃあこう攻めてこういう打ってやるっていう感じではない。で相手がこう来る、はい、パッという感じ。
Okay. Let's watch a little bit.
打ってやるっていう感じではない。で相手がこう来る、はい。
So I know he's doing a demonstration and he is, he's expecting the person to move at a specific time. So maybe he's acting a little bit earlier. The good thing about this video is that he has a little bit of live demonstration after, or a tournament demonstration after. But you can still see the concept here, right? That he is anticipating, maybe also feeling the shinai, the pressure. And when the opponent makes the decision to go, he's already going. So ideally, you want to set up yourself to be ready for that moment when your opponent makes the decision to attack. So in essence, you're trying to anticipate the movement and always be in a position where you can move fluidly when that opportunity comes in. So if you watch this little demonstration, he's closing the distance, he's trying to put pressure, and maybe through feeling the shinai, looking at the opponent, he understands that this person is already made the decision to come forward. So then he takes advantage of that and takes it. I hope that makes sense, and it kind of illustrates the point that seme, it's not only to create a reaction, but you also want to be ready for when the opponent is going to give you that opportunity for you to strike. It's very hard because you cannot come with a mentality of saying, I'm going to do this, whatever happens, I'm going to do this. You also have to start feeling and understanding what reaction you might get from the opponent. And the only way to get this is to experiment, practice. Unfortunately, there's no shortcuts for that. So if you find a different way, if you find anything that works for you, feel free to share it. Let me catch up with some of these comments. Nenmatsu, thank you very much for passing by. Can you provide examples of techniques that are commonly used to exploit an opponent's weak seme? When you say weak seme, what do you mean? What are you talking about when you talk weak seme? You mean about somebody that is frozen, like it's not really doing anything. They're just standing there and they're being defensive, for example? Or do you mean that they're coming in but you don't feel any pressure whatsoever? So give me a little bit of clarification. We can talk about that. Gladly we'll do that. Shen, you said you go watch your own videos and try to minimize your own okori and from that you become aware of other people's okori. So you try, okay, let's try, because especially when people come in late, they might not catch on to some of the Japanese words. So make sure that, let's try to stay on the same page. When you say okori, your own start, right? Like that motion that you're gonna come into a technique, right? That's where we're talking about. um I like that, but the more I'm working into this, I'm trying to be in motion by the time that my opponent decides to move. This is the goal that I'm trying to do. So, like, today in practice, it happened that I'm watching the senseis. First of all, this is how I feel. I'm fighting against sensei, and let me go into main scene. I'm fighting against the sensei, and as I'm doing that, right, I'm trying to put that pressure, and then try to see when the sensei is coming my way, and when he's coming my way, I have no time to react, right? So, I like, for this past week, I've been going only to go attack man, only for man, only for man, and try to understand this communication, this part, not the pressure, but how can I capitalize at the right moment. And today, actually, I watched the senseis and the other students, and I'm talking about this dojo is like, I think the lowest rank is Yondan, and there's only one. So I'm watching this, and everybody's getting beat up the same way I'm getting beat up. So in this case, it was like, okay, it's not just me that I'm getting beat up. So that was kind of like a whew moment. But the main thing that I noticed today is that many of the students, they're there, and this is kind of what I mentioned earlier before. Sometimes you think that you're doing seme, but you're just standing there, and by the time that the student is trying to put the seme, the sensei is already going. So there's this little, and I'll talk about it after this video, there's this little motions that all of them are doing, and for some reason it just catches you completely off guard, and they're not doing anything special, right? They're just attacking. So, but I'll talk about it in a second. Let me catch up with some of these comments. What are some basic pressure points you use to get a reaction? If you want to do do, I pressure for the opponent's left eye. If he reacts and lifts his arms, I hit do. So I don't do do. Like, let me backtrack. Erase that. I don't go in for do as like a Tobi Komi do, or like just come in and do do. I don't find it. I don't find like I can get a very clear opportunity unless I get somebody that really is raising their hands and stuff like that. But I don't feel that I can get a very safe opportunity for me to go in for the do, where they cannot really readjust and then catch my man, for example, right? I think it's very tricky. So I would prefer to do, for example, Nuki-do or Kaeshi-do over just going for do. And the main thing, like competition wise, everything goes. Like you can try different ways, and for example, one popular pressure point, if you want to call it that, is coming with Osae Semete to men, and then when they try to protect for the men, you go around for the Kote. Like there's different I guess shy approaches, and I think this looks very cool if you have very good control of your footwork. Maybe this is also you can use for testing, but I'll be hesitant to you do that for testing, for example. But there's different ways you can do to get a reaction, right? So when you talk about pressure points, what do you mean? Like what motions I'm doing, or what do I do? Because, for example, right now in regular practice, I am trying to limit myself to my approach. Right now with senseis, I'm trying to come in, close the distance with my body, and when I see that opportunity, that moment, I go for that man. Today, I feel that I got maybe like 4 or 3 good men on the practice where the senseis weren't letting me just do the men, right? Like I feel like I had a good entry, and even if the sensei hit me, right, I had a good approach, and that's what I'm working on personally right now. But if I'm saying about competition, we can. This is a different talk, so we can talk about that too. So yeah, catch me up on some of your questions. I haven't done this, guys, and I'm sorry for that, but I want to do a members stream where I'm kind of want to show some of the videos for practice and go a little bit more in depth on this, but because of my schedule, I haven't had the time for that, so I'm so sorry. Jose Luis, welcome to the chat. How can you improve your ki? Okay, I suck at ki, right? My ki sucks, especially when I'm tired. It sucks, right? But said scream louder. Okay, that works. But you really want to work on your ki? You really want to put some work on that ki? If you do kakarigeko or uchikomi, do at least 3 passes with 1 breath, right? Keep this in mind. 3 techniques, at least. Don't do man. No, I said man. Try to do it. If you can do more, better. This one. The other one, it's kirikashi, 1 breath, right? So come in, kamae. You can take a breath there. Man. And again, like that. So if you can do long, strong ki, this is excellent. Maybe you won't be able to do it like this all the time, but if you at least consciously try to keep this in mind and do it more and more, I have seen a big improvement once I started doing this. The other thing, especially at the end. So this is the thing that I don't think I learned from Kendo, but it definitely... Oh, José, si quieres que hable en español, avísame. Si tienes problema en entender. ¿Ok? Ah, eres de Venezuela. ¿Con quién practicas? Ah, escríbeme. ¿Ok? No sé si vas a ir a la competencia en Perú. Pero, ok, hablamos de eso después. Okay, so what was I saying? With the ki, the one thing, I don't think I actually learned it like at practice, or I don't think anybody told me this, but something I noticed, and because I went to school for music, I picked this up also from watching singers do it, is that to stop your ki, many people do man and they just like let go all the air. But is if instead you don't do that, and if you want to stop your ki, just breathe in, man, it stops it more sharply, right? Instead of right, just man, and it forces you to breathe. So believe it or not, ki will improve your kendo, and actually making sure that you do little things like this will actually keep you with more energy. Oh, estás en Chile. Ok, tú me escribiste por Instagram, si no me equivoco. Ok, mantente en contacto. Vamos a ver si nos encontramos y podemos platicar y a ver qué eventos vamos juntos. Ok, por favor, escríbeme. Shen, so it's essentially for us to be already started the motion for a waza and then catch opponent's okori. What if opponents doesn't move or you don't recognize the okori? Do you stop or waza? So okori again is the start, right? Like you're talking about the start. So if the opponent doesn't move, what do? You hit him. That's it. Like if they don't move, you hit him. That, like, it's hard because maybe you expect them to move and then you're like, they didn't move, and then now you reacted and then it becomes a problem. So you want to kind of experiment, right? You want to understand how to manage these people as well. And I think the secret to that is small steps. So a lot of the times maybe, and this is why we also have different waza, right? So for somebody that doesn't move at all, maybe doing some harai waza, this will definitely help you out. So you have to kind of see, they don't move, but does that mean that they don't move their sword and their body? Only their body. Sometimes it happens a lot, actually they go back, right? This is another opportunity for you to hit. So actually I'm gonna make a video about that, but you want to make sure that you understand your opportunities to strike. And if the opponent doesn't move, unless they're fighting your sword, you have a wide open opportunity. Shanju-sen, you get Muni Tsuki. So then that means that you didn't put pressure. That's what that means, that you didn't get a reaction, because if the person reacts, normally two things would happen. They either, if the person reacts but they don't move, two things would happen. Either they put they tense up, or they back off, they soften up. So you have to try to recognize all those things, but also recognize when your seme didn't work. So if you get skied, the Mune, that wasn't your time to go. You didn't do anything. You didn't get a reaction. So essentially you fail on doing the seme. So those moments specifically, take them and then think about it. What did I do and what did I not do? So you start progressing yourself into it. Make sense? I think because you said, it does make sense. So, José, estamos en contacto, ¿ok? Por favor, porque vamos a ver a qué eventos podemos ir con el equipo. Okay, so am I in the right camera? There you go, guys. So the bot is working today. Okay, so... Oh, okay, so the link that just came out is the one for the membership. So let me just pin it. Guys, if you would like to become a member, the pin message will take you to the link to do so. And if you haven't, please take a second, hit that like button, help the stream go out to more people. Okay, now we get into the juicy part, right? Most people think or plan to strike after seme, right? So a lot of times there's not really an opportunity. So you're trying to gather information. But he's going to mention something very important. I don't know. I don't know who knows Maeda Sensei from US. He is the president of the United States Kendo Federation. But I remember some years ago during practice, he told me that at the end of seme, there is the strike. So this means that you have to have this mentality. This is what it means to me. You have to have the mentality that you're coming into seme, and the result of your seme is going to lead you to a successful technique. But on the flip side of that coin, you're not doing the seme to just get a reaction and attack. So you have to understand that the end of seme, it's when seme actually was effective, when you actually got a reaction from your opponent. So yeah, keep that in mind. Guys, by the way, is the screen sometimes flickering? Because for me, it's flickered, and I don't know if it's because my browser is refreshing or something. But I just want to make sure that you guys are not getting any cut off connection. And the numbers in the chat like kind of like look so weird on the screen right now. So like I think it's messed up right now. But okay. It reconnected, so there is some, yeah, because I'm getting some weird, I don't know what's happening. So today I forgot to plug in my Ethernet cable before I started the stream, so maybe that's what it is. It's kind of like switching between connections. So I'll remember to make sure to do it better next time, guys. Sorry if it's my fault. Okay, in order to attack, when you do seme to strike, there's a lag between seme and then attack. And oh my god, okay, so like this just flipped the switch in my head right now in my brain. And this lag is that moment where you think that you're doing tame, right? Because you're coming in, you're doing a motion, and you're waiting for that reaction. But there's a lag, right? Because you go in there and then you wait. So you're not really holding yourself back for that reaction. You're waiting, and it's a big difference. It's a little detail, but a big difference.
攻めとの間に必ず間ができる、そこを打たれるというところがありますので注意をしていただきたいと思います。必ず攻めて打つためではなく、それが一つともう一つはですね、
So Shen, I just read your comment, and you said your goal is to semi. Shen, you're saying that your goal is to stay in semi. No, sorry. Your goal is to semi, stay in tame, to then recognize the initiation of the opponent, so then you can strike. This is very interesting, and I think many of us at some point we have this same goal where we want to put that pressure, then wait for the opening or wait for that initial movement from the opponent to then attack. And I think that this can cause a big lag between you actually being ready to attack and you actually attacking. So especially because tame can look in very different ways. Again, I don't think there's one way to do seme as much as there's not one way to do tame. So many times I feel that when people are saying that they're doing tame, I'm not saying this is you, by the way, but many people, when they say they're doing tame, all they're doing is sinking themselves in, getting themselves flat-footed, and then they think of moving. So they kind of have to start again from zero. Where for me, I feel that tame is more that is holding you back. So you could be, for example, in the process of moving in, and then if you see the opponent opening, you go. But if you don't see the opening, then you readjust and keep putting pressure, so you cannot keep that motion, that movement towards the opponent, instead of just waiting there for an opening. So be mindful, because this could be very dangerous, especially when you have an opponent that will be able to adjust quickly and move forward if they see that you are flat-footed. So yeah, keep that in mind. You said you shift. Okay, I read something else, but okay, you shift your weight forward when you tame. And again, these are different ways that you can adjust, and if it works for you, it's great, but you also want to explore with different ways. Maybe sometimes it's not just tilting in, maybe sometimes it's just sliding the legs, sometimes it might be bringing the back foot to then push again, many different ways. I do like what you say is the feeling of falling forward, trying to hold yourself from falling down. This is something that I want to make a video about this, and I kind of want to show it more, especially for fluid footwork, but we need to be comfortable with the feeling of falling. You see it very often when like high-level competitors do hikiwaza, that they look like they're falling back, right? Oh, I almost fell through a wall, and same thing when they're going forward, especially when they're going very fast past through. A lot of times they look like they're gonna tip over. So you gotta understand how to be comfortable with this feeling, because it does help you, right? But you also have to make sure that you understand how to do it properly and not make mistakes. So that's why I'm holding myself from making that video until I find a good way to explain it. Anyways,
攻めて必ず打たなくてもいい。攻めと打ちとは切り離している。少しちょっとやってみましょう。普通の方は攻めて打ちなさいと言いますと、必ず攻めて攻めて攻めてと打っている。攻めて攻めて攻めたら打たなくちゃいかんと思うからこうすぐ打っている。
So I think that you will be familiar. You will probably see this a lot at the dojo, and maybe you feel that you're a victim of this, where you're coming in, and then you attack, right? So be mindful.
そうではなくてですね、攻めと打ちは切り離していいんですから、こう攻めて攻めて攻めて攻めて、さあ行くぞ攻めて、ここで打たなくてもいいんだ。
So let's just watch the strike. If you can think you can seme and strike separately, your kendo will deepen.
も
Okay?
もちろんあるんですけども、
I'll give you my interpretation in a second. If you have a different one, please
剣道が
put it in the
深く
comments.
なってくると思います。それってここが勝負のところですね。ここで、一瞬、気を抜いてると瞬間打たれてしまいますので、そこはぐーっと気を入れといて、そして気が入ってると、さああとはね、もう体が仕事しますから、はい、来る、はい、はい、自然と帰っていく。
So, I think that this is an excellent example. What I wanted to say is that, you see, he's not coming in with that mentality, I'm going to come in and I'm going to come for men. He's talking about you want to be mindful at this moment, you want to pay attention, and then you want to allow your body to act naturally. So we train so much our basics, not only so we can do it correctly, but also so our body understand when there's an opening and then freely going into that opening. So if you notice what's happening in this video right now, let me see, make sure that I'm in the right place. Hold on, sorry. So even this little, if you look at the right foot, can you see it from there? Yeah, you can. Okay, so if you look at the right foot, he's putting pressure with his right foot and making the body move forward as he's coming in, and this causes the opponent to start the motion to come for men. And the technique that he felt appropriate at this point was kaeshido rather than, for example, going for men or the banakote. Because at this point, and again, I guess he's also trying to demonstrate the fact that you might have to go deeper sometimes, you may not have to go so deep sometimes, but at this point, for example, if the opponent starts moving in for men, it becomes a little bit harder for him to actually catch the point, catch the timing for kote. Not that it's impossible, right? But maybe he feels more comfortable that here he had the opportunity to go for do. Now, one thing that I always admire is the simplicity of the movement, right? For this, and this is again one of my goals right now, I want to be able to move effortlessly, right? And here, if you watch his movement, a lot of power, a lot of snap, but very fluid. This is another big point, right? You don't want to do waza from toma. That's what I was mentioning before, that throwing an attack from very far away makes it super predictable from your opponent. You want to be able to do it, you want to have the physical ability to do it, but you also want to understand that if you attack from far, high chances that your opponent might catch you.
本当の技ではなくてね、これはかわされたり、抑えられたりいろんなことをされる。ところがこういう今のは詰めていってこういう間で体が仕事をするとですね、ドンとこう自分で思わず知らず打ってみたり打ってしまったり体が仕事をする、これが技ですから、自分でもわからない、打った技がわからないというところが今まで皆さんたちは経験が
The best ippons are the ones that you don't remember what you did, right? Like you don't know why you did it, you just did it. And maybe you're familiar with the concept of mushin, right? Like, or like the empty mind or whatever. This is, you know, talking about this, right? That you don't come in with, I am going to do this. You're adapting to that moment. You just kind of put in the pressure and see what's going to happen and then take that opportunity.
体に仕事をさせていくということで、やっぱりこう攻めてガーッと攻めて入るこうだと思ったら、
And for those of you who are experimenting on this, for those of you who are trying to make this work better for yourself, you gotta understand that the only way that this works, and I know I probably say this a lot, is that you have to engage that back leg at the moment of strike. So if you look at the back leg, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you probably can see it. You see that back leg, the foot is supported. He's not rolling the foot forward, like kind of like sliding in. From here, he's creating power from that back leg. He's not dropping the body. He's just falling forward and pushing with that back leg to get that push, to get that energy going forward. Very important, guys.
体が自然と入っていくんですね。で、そこまで
Shen, you said you're starting to understand that point recently. Just because you can hit from Toma doesn't mean that you should. But you do need to show that the ability to your opponent to set up your feints from Toma. Yes, and if you find a way to show that feint safely where you're not gonna get countered, this is good. So yeah, you said because you figure out that when you are feinting a waza, you're not in tame, so you can't strike while you're doing the feint motion. But if you are in Toma, you will be in no danger of someone hitting you. So I wouldn't say no danger. You have somebody that it's, you know, has a sword in front of you and you don't know also the reach, because maybe you're playing the card of, oh, I can get you from here, but maybe they're playing the card, I'm not gonna let you know where I can get you from. So maybe you can also make the mistake of misjudgment, right? So be careful, be mindful of that. So he shows a little bit of his seme, his understanding of seme, and how he uses it on shiai, so which I think is amazing. He's on the left, by the way. Great ippon, great ippon. So if you watch what happened, his opponent came in, closed the distance, made him react, but he made himself stay safe. He's trying to hold his opponent, but obviously trying to find that distance where he can actually feel comfortable. And from here, I don't know, from here, a little bit more, sorry. So his opponent is coming in. He comes in slightly, right? Like he brings in the body slightly and then comes in for that technique. Very strong. But if you notice before, he actually puts the pressure, but he doesn't attack. I think this is the part where he's actually explaining the fact that you don't want to just do semi attack. You want to also use your tame. And I think he shows the tame very well here. Yeah, a little bit back. You see, you can see a little bit of his pushing forward, but not really committing to the technique, right? There, this looked like he was coming in. But he didn't. Very good. Very, very good.
線は先に攻めるのみでありますけれども、打とうと思うことなく、相手が来るのを待っているのでもなく、自分が先に攻めて、そしてすかさず打ってくるところのその線をですね、思わず打ちが出れば最高だ。ただその時の調子だけで、打つのでは打つだけの機会ですと
This happens where you actually make the strike, but it's by chance. And of course, you know, tournament, okay, this happens, good. You got your ippon, but you want to go in practice and try to figure out when is it that you're going to get that opportunity and come in for the attack. Shen, are you asking if that pause was intentional? So I'm going to say it's a think of the moment, right? He's putting the seme. I always call it like this. I will always call it as gathering information. You want to find out what type of opponent you have in front of you. So you do these motions to try to see what are they going to do, and then you can use it later. He doesn't want to attack just for the sake of attacking, because you put yourself at risk when you attack as well, right?
感じの打ちになってしまって本物の打ちではない、心を攻めて線の木で打ち切る、ここが大切です。はい、これただこうずっといっていくだけじゃなくて、ただ守るだけではなくて、ただですね。
So mind you how he's talking about you want to advance, you don't want to stay in place. This is very important when it comes to understanding seme, right? That you don't want to just be there. Every moment that you're in Shiai practice Shinza, every moment has to have a purpose. You don't want to just be there wasting time. So if you're just there, most likely you're gonna get hit. So you want to try to figure out what can you do, what you need to do in order to make those openings.
ぐーっといくしてこう線の気持ちでずっといってて、向こうが思わず来る、そのところ僕がペンと思い切って打つ、これが最高の打ちで、その前にですね、ただこう
And this specific approach, I see it happening in a lot of the practices that I'm attending right now, where people are looking for this, looking for putting the pressure and then attacking. And a lot of the times when you see in the dojo, like everybody's just doing men, that's it. Like they could do anything, but all they're doing is men.
闇雲にこうただ言っといて、と当たって、これはただ当たっただけで本物の打ちではない、そういうところですので、攻めて打つっていうのが非常に大切。剣道は攻めが命という言葉があるぐらいですから、常に攻める。
Same is life.
攻めてどうする。攻めて崩す。ね、攻めて打つ。常に攻めを入れていただいたらいいのかなと思っております。
And this is the main thing. You want to create that opportunity. You want to break the opponent's approach. So watch. This is something that I'm observing a lot lately, and something that I want to kind of study further, and maybe actually sit down with a sensei and talk about this. Watch what happens with his foot. He puts that forward intention, right? He brings a little further his forward leg, and instead of taking a full step with the back foot, he decides to go more with the right foot and then readjust slightly the back foot. Same thing here. Same thing here. And then at the point where he decides to go, he's already ready in that position to go forward. You want to be mindful, because if you start practicing this without understanding, let's just say that, you might end up being too close and then not really being maybe your opponent is not good enough, or I'm not gonna say good enough, but maybe he's not understanding properly the seme, and then you both end up so close that this is not really a challenging point, right? This is now, I think at this point, it becomes more luck. So, or who is not distracted at this point? At this point, I think your seme failed, because if you couldn't take an opportunity for here, maybe you shouldn't have come this far. So please be mindful of that. Stay away from trying to come in too close and not really executing a technique. Shen, you're saying you think you worry about getting Munetsuki too much. You need to strike without worried, like he said. I agree with that 100%. And getting Tsuki on the Mune, it's good, because it's telling you that you didn't do your job. So you gotta try to understand, okay, when you did your job, right? First of all, and then what is that job that you need to do? You need to make the opponent react. So literally what that means is that right now your opponent doesn't feel threatened, and he's able to adjust their shinai by the time that you come in. So practice. Let me know how the voice level of my microphone is, please, guys, because right now I'm trying to stay quiet because it's a little bit late here. So yeah, I don't want to disturb the neighbors and then get kicked out. So please let me know. So in this one, he managed to come in, right, and catch him by surprise. And he's coming in slightly, and he's not necessarily doing the thing where he's sliding in with that one foot. He's actually changing it. And this is something that, again, you want to experiment. For me, for example, this approach works better. And it's not that it works better, is that this approach is easier for me to do. So right now I'm actually experimenting, staying away from this and doing it the other way. Which, by the way, when you're doing this, don't worry about getting frustrated because you're getting hit or people are predicting it, because as we said earlier, you need different type of seme for different occasions. So if you're getting hit, it's okay. Just try to learn from that hit. Try to learn what happened in that moment and why that seme wasn't applicable in this situation. Hope that makes sense.
それとですね、小川忠太郎先生がおっしゃった言葉がございますけれども、小川忠太郎先生はこう構えた時にですね、この木っていうのがありまして、攻める時に手元にあったら相手に響かない。この木っていうのは自分の竹刀の牽制に。
So he's talking about the key, and again, I think this is one of the points where maybe translation, my Japanese is still not that good, so I'll get there, guys, don't worry. But you want to try to understand that how do you transfer that intention? I like to say you want to have your intention forward. Your mentality, your mindset has to go forward, and you have to feel that your opponent has to feel that sword is a threat. So again, normally what I like to do is I try to focus on my opponent rather than their sword. But if I feel that the sword is a threat, then this is a way for my opponent to break me, right? So these are the type of things that you want to practice and try to understand how to make it happen.
先に気がないと相手には響かない。これは小川先生が言われている言葉です。ここに気があってはダメだ。この先にないとダメだ。こういう感じですね。そういうことをやってみてください。それとですね、牽線、気力、体力が共に働いていた時に初めて、その攻めが生きてきますので、どれ一つ欠けててもダメですね。
So you have to understand that you have to, it's not about just approaching your opponent with your body, right? Like just taking a step and then you're done. There are many things that you want to put together, and again, maybe I'll have to do a different stream or a different video to talk more about this, but you want to understand that it's not just about approaching your opponent. It's not just about stepping towards your opponent. This has to be a lot more.
体力が共に働いていた時に初めて、その攻めが生きてきますので、どれ一つ欠けててもダメですね。この3つが一つになって攻めていく。で初めていい攻めになってくると思います。それとあとはですね、攻めるということはどういうことかと言いますと、攻めると必ずや相手の平常心が崩れてくる。必ず。で攻めてグッと瞬間上げてごらん。ガッ、そう。こういう崩れる。そうすると相手に。
So you saw that moment, right, where he does something and he's experimenting or he's using a specific way and he got a reaction. So this type of things, these are things that you need to put in your repertoire and say, okay, this worked. Maybe it's not going to work against somebody else, but you know that this works. Can you do it? And then build up into what other things you can do.
視界ができるんですね。視界っていうのは恐怖、疑惑、驚き、おののくり、疑い、惑
So we talked about this specifically when talking about sports psychology, right? Like when we talked specifically about this four
という言
sicknesses.
葉がございますけれども、来るのかな、来ないのかな、どうするんだろうって、そのいろんなその病気がこう出てくると言われています。こう構えてずーっとつった時にこっと手元上がる。
Okay,
こうい
you
う、
saw?
ね、ことが起きてますので。
So maybe you tried something. He tried a semi, but the opponent didn't do anything, right? He had to do it again, and then he got the
この
the
攻めっていうの
the
がすごく大
reaction.
切です。それとあとはですね、さっきもお話をしましたけど、攻めと間合いにも十分注意をしてください。攻めたら必ず相手が来ますので、必ず何かします。攻めてきたら、攻めを。
This is very important. When you semi, your opponent is going to get a reaction, and sometimes that reaction has to do with moving. So whether it's closer or farther away from you, and you have to make sure that you understand this and you try to adjust. So whether it is to do a shorter step, or maybe you have to readjust before launching your technique. These are very important. You have to pay attention, and that's why you need to understand how to do the tame, so that way you can allow your body to naturally execute the technique that you need to do for that specific moment.
こちらが攻めた場合ですね、必ず相手はこのままこのぐらいではいいんですけど、もっとさらに深く必ず相手は変化していきます。その時にがどうかだから、その時にどうするか、その時に打つのか返すのかどうするか、これは稽古でやっぱりたくさん稽古をやってやっぱり打たれて覚えることも大切なんで、そういうところもね。
Like I don't know if you saw that. I don't know if you guys are reading this part, but I like how he said this. You have to learn from being hit, and this is the things that what I was telling you, Shen, that you cannot be afraid that, oh, because I'm going to attack, my opponent is actually going to do something, and I'm gonna get punished. So it's okay. It's just telling you you didn't do your job, or you didn't understand this, or maybe you need to adapt. You need to do something different. For example, last week or the week before, I was doing a lot of Iman, right? And I was getting challenged a lot with the Iman and losing a lot of the engagement. So it took me a second to say, okay, why in each Iman I am not, coming up on top. And then this helped me understand, what am I doing different than the partner that I have? What are they doing that's better? And this way you can progress. But if you go in and say like, oh, I'm not gonna go for men now because he's gonna hit me, and every time he's gonna hit me, then you lose that opportunity. It's not about how many ippons you can get in Jigeiko, it's how much better you can get in Jigeiko, right? At least that's my approach for Jigeiko. Discipline, you're saying that your approach to Seme and Kamae is just in whole. It's a complete isometric exercise where you have balance, tension, and flexibility. Yeah, you need to have all of these things in order to execute waza, especially if you're going to do rensoku waza. You have to have a lot of stability. Stability, I don't know if you put stability, a balance, I guess, balance, stability. So you want to make sure that you have all these elements in your kamae. And yeah, but seme, it's connected, but it's separate as well, right? Like it has its own book.
簡単には考えないようにしていただきたいと思います。
This is not a simple thing you can learn by being told.
こ
That's
こでです
correct.
ね、村山圭介先生の、重ねて攻めろという攻め方を、これから説明したいと思います。重ねて攻めるというのは1度、2度、3度ぐらいではダメなんですね。
This is what we're talking about, coming in too close, right?
もう4度、5度と6
You
度
want
と
to avoid. You have to avoid. As a matter of fact, and this is kind of what I wanted to mention. Right now at the dojo where I practice today, they're asking me to not come in. You come in at this distance and then try to put the pressure, try to get the pressure from this distance, and as you're extending your body, as you're getting the reaction, you're trying to get the opponent to feel that they can come in as well and then launch from there. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you go. Or 1, 2. You want to try to create pressure from this point. Make that threat from this point. And the opponent needs to feel that you are a threat from here. Because, and this is what the senses are doing at the dojo, from this distance, they're just sliding and go. And by the time they're coming in, a lot of times you get surprised because they're so good at moving without you knowing, or engaging without you realize they engage. So yeah, practice, practice, practice.
小さくね、例えば一寸の攻めを重ね合わせる。一寸の攻めとその木の攻めすべてを混ぜながら重ねて攻めていくということですね。まあそういうことです。もう一回いきましょうか。今度は手元を上げたのはこっちですからね。はい、パッ。最後もう一回。攻めて攻めて攻めて攻めて。パッという感じですね。
So, Shen, you're saying make the seme step a lot smaller and from further away to make room to give more space to seme more times. Yes and no. Yes and no. I guess that's the best answer, because the reason why I say that is because I don't want you to be getting the habit of getting used to saying, I'm going to take one step, didn't work, I'm going to take another step, didn't work, I'm going to take another step, and didn't work. And then when you're too close, then you end up being too close, and then again, you didn't really do semi, right? You didn't get a reaction. So sometimes in a fight, you end up coming in a little bit closer than you should have. But the idea is that you want to try to create the pressure or create that threat, let's just call it a threat, from Toma, right? From barely crossing the shinais. You want the opponent to be on edge, and every step you take or every little inch that you close the distance, the opponent starts kind of like hesitating or wondering what's going to happen. This is I think a little bit of what he was mentioning before, right? You want to create that mentality in your opponent, and you want to have the complete opposite of that. You want to be, I'm in control and I'm going to make you move, and when you move, I'm going to cut you, right? So I know you guys probably heard this many times, when and then cut. So this is kind of the build up to that, if that makes any sense. So let's go back a little bit. Sorry, right here. So if you notice, he's engaging pretty much from here, right? He's not coming extremely close. From this point, he puts pressure with his forward foot, and then directly from there, he goes into a technique. Look at the back. I don't know if you can see the back foot very well, but can you see it very well, guys? I hope you can. If you look at the back foot is still engaged on the floor, right? So even though that his legs are now a little bit wider open, they're wider open because he's approaching. It's part of, I guess, let's call it a part of his lunge, right? And from here, he's going and lunging from that back leg. So he's not bringing the leg forward to then engage again and go forward. So he stopped doing the extra steps, if that makes any sense. That's what I was trying to say. So maybe he started that thread. Watch. He started that thread from, maybe the camera didn't pan in or didn't switch quick enough, but I think he started his thread a little bit before this distance, and from there he takes small steps Like not even small step. Right now he's just moving the body. He doesn't get a reaction. So what does he do? He readjusts the foot, and like he approaches with the foot, but as he does that, his upper body kind of like he reloaded. Let's just call it like he reloaded the upper body, and then he uses the upper body to come forward. I don't know if he has moved the back foot by now yet. It's hard to see it. Yeah, it's hard to see it from, but I don't think he has moved the back foot. So you see all of this is happening without him moving the back foot. So this is, again, you could do it where he moves the back foot, but these are different ways of approaching. This is different tools, and this is the part that I'm exploring. I'm happy that I did this stream today because this is exactly what I'm exploring right now. So essentially he's attacking from this distance. He's essentially attacking from this distance, right? If he doesn't move the back foot, all he's doing is kind of trying to get the reaction forward. He does move. Okay, he moves a little bit. Sorry, it was hard to see it, but yeah, from here, from this position, he doesn't move. So normally when I see this happening, or people trying to replicate this, the distance where they end up at is here, not here, right? So be mindful of that. Discipline says, believe it or not, but your practice of Chakuso helps with your seme, since Chakuso builds your sense of attention to detail, so you can have a sense of your opponent's okori. Yeah, I mean, I think everything that we do in practice is has a meaning and a purpose, right? Perfect, guys. Perfect. This is such a good video to watch, and I think like you can get a lot of good information every time you watch this video. My suggestion, especially if you get something that has so much information like this, you want to try to break it down, and you want to try to put it to the point where you can replicate one thing at a time, work into building yourself little by little, and then going into the deeper things once you make one of those things integrated in your body. Does that make sense? Is that something that kind of like, you know, it can be transferred? Because I feel a lot of times we try so many things, we focus so many things in the dojo that it makes it really hard for you to actually get progress. So please, guys, take your time. I know sometimes you don't want to get hit, but you know, like today, for example, one of the senseis, he had me just pretty much do uchikomi or kakarigeko men, right? And at some point, I started realizing why I need to do more, because between the I guess the heat of the moment, I started realizing that I was lunging in a way that it wasn't giving me good stability. Like, right, I had to compensate with a lot of muscle to kind of make sure that I straight. And I started realizing I'm not moving properly. So this type of things, you cannot be afraid of failing, right? Just go, just do it. Work on this, work on yourself little by little, and don't worry about getting hit, or don't worry about, you know, not doing it perfectly or getting the results you want. And that practice, just try to take that moment and use it for learning. Shen, you asked was Chukso and replied appearance. Lewis is saying good morning, Jose, thank you for this, thank you very much for passing by. I always enjoyed your comments. You really enjoy looking for the blogs. You're testing for another rank soon. What rank are you testing? Write me, see if I can help you out in any way. So yeah, send me a message so that way I can see if I can send you some videos or some resources, or if you have any questions I can ask one of the senses here, and I can pass it along. Just saying how you look, you agree with this. The idea usually when someone looks like, okay, I'm gonna say that in YouTube, but they don't understand Kendo is more than you stick fighting. So yeah, this is something that I think that I always say that the judges pay attention to that for testing and Shiai. And normally when you have somebody that they know how to put their uniform on, the judges are going to be like, oh, most likely this guy's going to win. So this is something that you want to kind of develop for yourself and make sure that you build yourself into that. Guys, it's pretty late for me here, so I'm going to have to head out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to the video that I posted, I think was today, because my schedule is a little bit different than some of you guys. So maybe for you was this morning, for me was yesterday. I don't remember. Anyways, so guys, if you guys can go watch it, make sure that you give me your feedback, because I try some different things. This is a review, an update review from the Mermaid and Bogu set, but also gave some pointers for if you're looking for one Bogu to have one Bogu only rather than several Bogus. But anyways, if you could just hit the like button as well, make sure that this stream and all these videos get pushed out to more people. Hopefully this week I can come out with 1 or 2 more videos that I want to put out, and see if I can set up my stream for the members, where I'm going to discuss specifically the things that I'm working on and kind of give you my updates on how things are going for training. And if you have any questions, I can help out as well. But guys, thank you very much for being here. You guys keep me motivated to keep doing this, so keep them coming. If you can share this channel with more people out there, tell them that we stream on Saturdays, that'll help a lot. Sorry I'm being so quiet, but it's kind of late here, so I'm gonna let you guys go. You guys have a good rest of your weekend, get some good practices, and if you would like to contact me again, if you're not in the Discord, feel free to pass by. I'll put the link in the description, in the chat. So thank you guys. I'm just saying thank you very much. You will watch the stream again. Great stuff today. Yeah, I think so too. If you can make some clips of the areas where you think it was good, maybe I can also like just hit the clip thing and maybe send it or something, and then I can maybe edit it and just put it out there for people that would like to watch it. But anyways, thank you very much, guys. You guys have a good rest of your day, and see you in the next one. Bye.